Good afternoon. I'm Nick Smith in Chicago. Right now, nominees making a final appeal to voters as the race for the White House enters its final days. It's time for NewsNation Now. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris going head-to-head, crisscrossing the country in their fight to win key battleground districts. Mr. Trump just rallying support in North Carolina today, hoping to win the state for a third time in a row. And Ms. Harris heading to North Carolina after amping up Georgia voters today, her push to get young voters to the polls. The former president wrapping up a rally in North Carolina, now on his way to Virginia for a rally next hour. We have been covering this from the beginning, and we will continue to do so. Mr. Trump earlier today saying that he wants his voters to get out and vote. News Nation's Libby Dean is live on the ground in Greensboro, North Carolina for us. Libby, what did we hear from Mr. Trump other than saying, hey, get off that sofa, get out there and vote? He wants his voters activated and in action.
Right, it's all about turnout at this point, Nick, and of course Trump really emphasizing that in these final days here. But as you mentioned, Trump starting the day in North Carolina and ending it in North Carolina, but having that Virginia rally in between. Now, we're seeing the continuation of these closing arguments here with just about 72 hours to go until Election Day. Trump continuing to push that message, really focusing in on what matters to North Carolina voters, criticizing the federal government for their response to the hurricanes here that we saw that damaged the state, widespread damage that we saw, but also Trump sounding confident heading into Election Day. Let's listen.
Hello, North Carolina. This is going to happen. I predict, let's make a prediction. This will happen on Tuesday, I think, right? This will happen on Tuesday. I think they'll end up having many, many more people than they thought. We win this state, we're going to win the whole ball game.
All right, state of the race here in North Carolina. Decision Desk HQ polling right now shows Trump at 49.1% and Vice President Harris at 47.7%. Now, this is within the margin of error, and you're hearing there that slight lead from Trump. But despite that slight lead, Trump is actually spending a good amount of his time in the next few days here in the state. We're going to see him tonight here in Greensboro. Then he is going to be in Kinston and then Raleigh as well. Every single day before Election Day, Trump is going to be here in North Carolina, maybe signaling that the campaign is a little bit concerned despite Trump winning the state 2 times already.
And once again, Libby, highlighting what you said, how important every vote will matter. Anytime we're talking about less than 1.5% separating the two, it means that people will definitely need to get off the sofa and support their candidate. News Nation's Libby Dean live on the ground in Greensboro, North Carolina. Libby, thank you so much. Harris is on her way to North Carolina for her second rally of the day. She barnstormed through Georgia earlier, holding a star-studded rally, hoping to gain momentum in the critical battleground state. Harris trailing Trump by less than 2 points in the latest Decision Desk HQ polling average. Georgia's crucial 16 electoral votes hanging in the balance. 4 million ballots have already been cast by early voters in the state. The News Nation political contributor Mick Mulvaney is joining us now to talk about this. Mick, what do you think will be key? Excuse me, not Mick, Elizabeth Brand. Elizabeth, what do you think will be key to getting people off the sofa, out there to vote, anytime we're talking about how close this margin is between the two?
I will say, Nick, I mean, if I could be Mick Mulvaney, I feel like I would be very, very bright, but I appreciate that. That's a compliment because then maybe I would have a little bit more political discussion. But I will say the energy really unbelievable today, Nick. There was about 12,000 people that came out. It's pretty warm for a day in November. We heard from Spike Lee. We heard from Senator Warnock. We heard from Senator Ossoff and some very popular local artists here and national artists for that matter. We heard the vice president really say that this is all about unity. She talked about bringing down the cost of living, everyday costs, groceries. She talked about people in the sandwich generation, so someone who's taking care of kids and elderly grandparents. And she talked about affordable health care. Why is it so important that she's in the state of Georgia? Because, yes, we saw in 2020 the state did elect Joe Biden as president, but then we didn't see them vote for a Democrat backing up to 1992. And other than that, you look, it's been fairly red. So we see former President Donald Trump chipping away at some of these blue zones. So Cobb County, Fulton County, Gwinnett County. And what we see from the Vice President, Harris, trying to chip away anyone who might be on the fence. So here we did speak to some voters shortly before the rally, and they gave us some indication as to how they're feeling. Here they are.
And I really am hoping that Georgia is going to go again. I think it's going to be tight, but I'm very hopeful, and I think a lot of the youth vote and the women's vote are really going to make the difference.
I'm hoping that we can finally turn a new leaf with this election, and we can finally start making the progress that's been promised to us our whole lives.
And election officials doing everything they can, Nick, to prepare for no controversy. We can all remember back in 2020. So we see certain counties. Cobb County is a good example. It's the second largest county in Georgia. They had about 3,000 ballots that were mailed to people late. So they said those people can take their time and return it as late as November 8th. They are doing everything they can to be as accurate as possible, not necessarily trying to get those results in instantaneously. They want to make sure that the process is thorough and accurate. Nick?
And Elizabeth, let me just say in the most professional, please don't call HR kind of way, ain't nobody confused you with Mick Mulvaney. All right, Elizabeth Brand, thank you so much. Harris is on her way to North Carolina for her second rally of the day. She barnstormed through Georgia earlier, holding a star-studded rally, hoping to gain momentum in critical battleground states. Harris trailing Trump by less than 2 points in the latest Decision Desk HQ polling average. Georgia's crucial 16 electoral votes hanging in the balance. 4 million ballots have already been cast by early voters in the state. The Harris campaign also unveiling a new ad set to air nationally during Sunday's football games. This as the campaign also plans to get out the vote through a live stream the eve of the election, connecting 7 states in an effort to get voters to the polls. The live stream will see Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz, joined by surrogates and celebrities in a final push before Election Day. Congressman Garamendi joining us now. Congressman, good afternoon.
Good to be with you.
You two have been watching each of the rallies and things there. I want to get your takeaway from what you heard Mr. Trump say just a few minutes ago.
Well, at least for about 30 seconds, he was on message. And I suspect the rest of what you didn't show was he went back to his normal rant, seeking revenge on his political enemies and frankly, being totally disconnected. We've seen that over and over again. There's major questions about his capacity to govern, let alone to give a speech in some coherent manner. On the other side, there are some profoundly important issues that the Republicans and Trump has put forward. For example, doing away with the Affordable Care Act. That's 20 million plus Americans who immediately lose their health care coverage. And also, every woman in America would be subject to pre-existing conditions. Those women that are of the age of, 16 through maybe 40 and beyond, have a pre-existing condition. They could get pregnant. And that brings us to reproductive rights. There are some profoundly important issues that are at play here. Often there's not noticed because of Trump's continued ranting about one thing or another.
Mr. Garamendi, I do want to talk to you about the closing arguments from the different campaigns, though. As the election draws near, what is your perspective on how both VP Harris and Mr. Trump could influence undecided voters, particularly in these swing states? We've talked about how there's a group of people they believe are sitting on the sidelines. How do they get those people motivated in less than 3 days?
Well, I actually saw that. I was in Reno when VP Harris spoke in Reno. Northern Nevada is Republican territory, sort of. But there's a lot of folks in Northern Nevada that will vote for Harris. Her message was very, very strong. She spoke on the issues, women's issues, very, very strongly on women's issues. She also picked up the economy. Northern Nevada economy is moving along. And she talked about small businesses, critically important there. She talked about the infrastructure. She talked about the education issues and the environmental issues in a way that really connected with those swing voters, the independents, and also rallying the traditional Democratic voters to get out there and vote. Very, very stellar performance on her part. So I think she's going to, well, I know she's doing that all across the nation. You've seen that recently, and she'll be, well, she was in Georgia, and she did that, I'm certain, with the same kind of enthusiasm, energy, and commitment to the future. The rest of the message that she's putting out is a unifying message. Trump's message is one of division, of revenge, of nastiness. Her message is one of let's work together. She actually says over and over again, if you disagree with me, sit down at the table with me and share your thoughts, and we'll come to a compromise. We will find a solution in which all of us can work together. Basically, a very strong message to end the Trump's divisiveness.
You know, Representative, I'm sure that when the letter G comes to mind, most people think Garamendi, but thanks to Puerto Rico and the comments at Madison Square Garden rally, Mr. Trump is having to spend a large time talking about garbage, right? The chunk of the final days campaign, damage control, talking about the remarks made by a comedian, and then Mr. Biden also weighing in, and garbage has been the theme. How much of a setback could this be for either Mr. Trump or VP Harris, who is now trying to clean up what Mr. Biden said?
Well, let's deal with Trump first here. Clearly, the rally at Madison Square Garden, 60, 70 years after the major Nazi rally that took place there in 1939, clearly it offended Puerto Ricans, a major voting bloc in swing states, particularly Pennsylvania. Will they then not vote for Trump? I suspect they will, particularly when the governor of Puerto Rico spoke so strongly and was so offended by what Trump said. Those words that he used continue to reverberate, not just among the Puerto Ricans, where it's very strong, but beyond that, it is the way in which he would govern should he become president. It's the government. He would govern with division. He would govern with nastiness. He would govern with pitting one group of people against another. With regard to Biden, yeah, clearly it was a mistake. It was also a very interesting, probably an intern was recording his comments, maybe at his home, wherever it was, unscripted, and he made a mistake. He's backed away from it. Harris is backed away, and clearly that is not what they intended. So moving on, Trump continues to use the garbage, saying that America is a garbage can. I mean, good God, what are we talking about here? The president of the United States saying that this entire country, and obviously Puerto Rico, being a garbage can? Those are his words, not mine.
Mr. Garamendi, I do want to ask you,
it just gives you some sense of where he is coming from. And most important of all, he's not going to stop that kind of language. Should he become president, he will continue to. And he does have a revenge list.
Mr. Garamendi, you've heard, though, many of his supporters say that Mr. Trump he's really joking. It's meant to be more or less just an off-the-cuff comment, particularly interesting when we talk about the comments made just recently about former Representative Cheney. What are your thoughts about those comments when Mr. Trump actually spoke about Liz Cheney?
When a major political candidate for president, Donald Trump, speaks, words count. Those words have meaning. Those words carry weight. And what he said about Liz Cheney is not only extraordinarily dangerous to her, but also to any other person, because he's basically saying that you can use a gun to take out a political opponent. Words matter. And what we have seen repeatedly during his presidency and now as a candidate and his campaign is words that are extremely dangerous because they incite people to take action. In the case of Cheney, I pray, and I'm sure most Americans are praying, that the words that he used will not lead to further endanger her. But we do know that she is faced every day with threats. And this is where Trump is so dangerous to America. His words carry weight. In the campaign, they carry weight. We certainly saw that on January 6th in 2021. His words at the ellipse incited a riot and have led now to his being charged with crimes. This is where it gets very, very troublesome for America. And I recall one of my dear friends, a major Republican funder, a Republican in the Midwest. We were talking about this. He said, don't trouble me with policies. It's all about character. And Trump's character is extraordinarily dangerous to America. That was one of the major Republican supporters across the board out of the Midwest. Character counts. And you look at his character. Now, juxtaposition that with Harris. I was just watching one of your clips here a moment ago. In Georgia, Harris is speaking to unification of the American, putting aside and putting behind, turning the page on the Trump era and bringing people together. And you see right there, she is on stage, she's smiling. She is presenting to America a different view of what a president can be. A smile. Have you ever seen Trump smile at any of his rallies? It's more of a sneer. It's more of a division. But Harris is clearly working hard in her rallies. And given, I've known her for more than 20 years, this is the real person. This is not a candidate on a stage putting forth something that's not real. This is Harris. This is the way she is. She is positive. She is smart. She's very, very capable. And by the way, don't mess with this woman. This is a very, very strong person. I've worked with her going after insurance fraudsters.
Well, Congressman, I'm going to say this. We'll see how it all comes out in the wash in about 3 days there. Where will you be on Tuesday?
Well, I will be in California, but I will be zooming across the nation, as many Californians are, reaching out to those voters who we know occasionally vote, telling them to get out, go to the polls. Yeah, you're going to stand in line, bring your thermos or bring your cool drink.
Hey, Congressman, thank you so much for giving us part of your Saturday.
Thank you.
With just 3 days until the election, both campaigns are pulling out all the stops in a last-ditch effort to sway voters. NewsNation is tracking every moment from the campaign trail. Plus, what to expect on election night. NewsNation's Connell McShane is breaking what to watch as results roll in Tuesday night.
Meet the traveling trio. The thrill seeker, the soul searcher, and ahoy, it's the explorer, each helping to protect their money with Chase. Whoa, a lost card isn't keeping this thrill seeker down. Lost her card? Not the vibe. The soul searcher is finding his identity and helping to protect it. Oh yeah, the explorer. She's looking to dive deeper, all while Chase looks out for her. Because these friends have Chase. Alerts that help check, tools that help protect, one bank that puts you in control. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Looking for a moisturizer that does more than just moisturize? Try Olay Regenerist for 10 benefits in every jar. Olay visibly firms, lifts, and smooths wrinkles by penetrating the skin to boost regeneration at the surface cellular level. Try Olay.
Right now, pet dander, skin cells, mold spores, pollen, and dirt are being sucked into your air ducts. Get cleaner air and system efficiency now with Stanley Steamer. Your air ducts aren't clean until they're Stanley Steamer clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
When my doctor gave me Breztri for my COPD, I noticed things changed. Breztri gave me better breathing starting within 5 minutes. It also reduced flare-ups.
Breztri won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. It is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Don't take Breztri more than prescribed. Breztri may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
Ask your doctor about Breztri.
At Bombas, we make absurdly comfortable socks, slippers you'll float in, and underwear and tees that feel like clouds. No bunnies. Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
I wish my TV provider let me choose what I pay for. I wish my TV provider let me choose what I pay for and let me pause my subscription when I want. Sling lets you do that.
Choose and customize your channel lineup or watch for free. Sling lets you do that.
I'm Daniel, the founder of Pretty Litter, the color-changing, health-monitoring cat litter. Did you know that cats tend to hide symptoms of sickness and pain? I learned this the hard way after losing my cat, which drove me to create this. By working with scientists and veterinarians, we were able to develop a new litter with color-changing technology to help you keep tabs on your cat's health. With advanced odor control, low dust, and easy maintenance, it's no wonder we're called the world's smartest litter. So give it a try. Visit prettylitter.com today.
My moderate to severe Crohn's disease
and my ulcerative colitis symptoms kept me
out of the picture. Now there's Skyrizi.
I've got places to go and I'm feeling free. Control of my symptoms means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
And now I'm back in the picture.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi. Skyrizi is proven to help deliver remission
and help visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year.
Don't use if allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's or UC.
Ready to get back in the picture? Ask your gastroenterologist how to take control of your Crohn's or UC with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
AbbVie could help you save.
Election night, NewsNation is offering something completely different from all the rest. Respect for all Americans. Factual, fair, independent election coverage you can trust. Tuesday, 6/5 Central on NewsNation.
Welcome back. 21 minutes after the hour. Joining me now is NewsNation political contributor and former chief of staff under former President Trump, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, I want to give you a chance to respond to Congressman Garamendi's comments.
Look, I like John. I worked with him a couple of times when I was in the House a decade ago. He's in full politics mode. He just is right now. It's a shame to see, I guess. But it's not unexpected. There's folks on both sides of the aisle right now sort of, just going all over the talking points memo from their party. Harris is an idiot, Trump is a dictator, and they can't get outside the box to have a reasonable conversation. I enjoyed watching John. I think he's wrong about most of the things he said about Donald Trump. He's repeating a lot of sort of things that aren't entirely accurate. I get it. It's the last 5 days of an election. You're probably going to see more of that and not less.
And Mick, I do want to ask you, though, you heard Mr. Trump talk about how he criticized FEMA's response on the ground, that he had not seen FEMA actually working in some of those areas hit by Helene. Do you think that those comments have an effect on those who are in those affected areas, who are directly affected by that storm?
No, I think the people who live in those areas, Nick, know exactly what's happening. And look, it's really, really difficult to do what FEMA does. There's no question. Are there areas where FEMA can do better? Yes, there are. Is this the sort of response that people might equate to the difficulties that FEMA had with New Orleans 15 years ago? No, I don't think so. But this is this is hard to do. And listen, I'm sitting here in the border between Charlotte, North Carolina, and where I live in South Carolina. Those pictures you're showing is probably not an hour north of here. But it's in the mountains, and it can be very, very difficult to get to. It's very, very difficult to provide these services. Trump is right to shine some light on it. But again, we're in the hyperbolic part of a campaign where everything that a candidate can do to maybe try to get an advantage is sort of magnified. The bottom line is this. The people who live in that part of the state know who they're voting for. They know why they're voting for them, and I don't think the storm is going to change that. Do I think Trump is right to raise it? Yes. But do I think it's going to move the needle? Not very much.
Mick, what will move the needle amongst those voters that they're trying to get off the sofa? Both VP Harris and Mr. Trump have both talked about low information voters, or those who are not always actively engaged. How do you get people 3 days away from the election to decide on Tuesday that they're actually going to go out and vote when they may actually see long lines that further deter them?
Yeah, it's really, really hard, Nick. It's a great question because, face it, if you're still undecided or you're still not can't figure out if you're even going to vote, where have you been for the last 4 or 5 or even, 8 years? So I think both campaigns have realized that this is no longer, and this is not unusual, by the way, the last weekend of a campaign, you are finished trying to get those low propensity voters because either you got them or you don't. You've turned them into voters or you haven't. Now you're trying to make sure people show up. And that, Nick, is why you hear the rhetoric go up. You hear Trump dial up his rhetoric to try and fire up his base. You hear the Democrats. Goodness gracious, you can't look at a story on the internet right now without having Trump be called all sorts of different names because they're trying to ramp up the Democrat base as well. The last weekend is always about firing up your base to make sure they turn out. It's a little bit different than it used to be. It used to be a lot more important because we used to all vote on Election Day. Now you've got the, 40, 50 million people who've already voted. So you've already sort of worked on your base a little bit. But this is all about turning folks out. I think they're done trying to get those folks off the sofa. If you're still on the sofa, you're probably staying there through Tuesday.
Mick, I do want to ask you, though, about numbers before I let you go. American job creation slowed to its lowest rate since last since last year. What do we take from these numbers, these new job numbers? 12,000 jobs added, 4.1% unemployment. This is the October jobs report. Is this a problem, and how do you recover? Because more than 53 million Americans have already cast their ballots.
Yeah, you don't recover. This jobs reporting always gets a lot of attention in the media. It very rarely moves anybody in an election because it's too late in the game, except for this, except for the people who are feeling it. If you've lost your job, of course, in the course of the last month, if you're looking for a job, you can't find one because of these weak job numbers, that might move the needle. Some things happen very late in campaigns, Nick, that can move a needle. For example, Donald Trump is going to Virginia today. I just was talking to the folks at the Republican National Committee. They have a race there, the 10th district
I've got
that has
to
gone
jump
from
in and stop you there. You know how we are. I'm up against that clock, but I thank you so much for giving me part of your Saturday. NewsNation political contributor Mick Mulvaney, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
The race for the White House enters its final days, how both campaigns are pulling out all the stops to sway voters ahead of Tuesday. We'll be right back.
The final weeks of the election are upon us, and one cable news network is offering something completely different from all the rest. With NewsNation, we're offering fairness. You won't see a thumb on the scale for the left or the right here at NewsNation. We invite all views with respect for all Americans. We just give you the news and let you decide.
We're thinking about what it means from your perspective. We're not picking a team. We're picking you.
At NewsNation, this election season, you'll get complete transparency. We'll show you in detail how we gather information, where we get it from, and how decisions are made. On election night, our partners at Decision Desk HQ will be making all the race calls. DDHQ enabled NewsNation to call the 2022 midterm races with 100% accuracy and 70% of the races ahead of the Associated Press. There will be no backroom executive second guessing. Should we call it for Trump? Should we call it for Harris? Nope. At NewsNation, we're all about the facts. The numbers are the numbers, from the White House to the balance of power and who wins the House and Senate. And all election night, NewsNation will bring its viewers behind the scenes and take them behind the numbers as they come in. Viewers will be able to follow along with the DDHQ election pulse on NewsNation. As the votes come in across the country, the needle moves and viewers can watch in real time how the trajectory of the race is changing. The odds for victory calculating live on our air, giving viewers an inside look at how and why the race is called.
Unbiased, unvarnished thoughts and insights. That's what people need to navigate an election year.
We'll give you the numbers, the results they lead to, and then bring different viewpoints with respect for all Americans to the table to discuss. At a time when trust in media is at an all-time low, you can trust NewsNation to bring you election coverage that is independent, free from any corporate agenda. And don't take our word for it. Media watchdog groups consistently give NewsNation a perfect trust rating, higher than CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC. In addition to our DDHQ partners, NewsNation is backed by the largest news gathering operation in the country, with more reporters on the ground across the heartland, the coasts, from our biggest cities to the towns and communities that make up the backbone of America. NewsNation is America's fastest growing cable news network, and our election coverage is one of the reasons why.
Whisper to them they might want to change the screen from CNN to NewsNation because we've already got the information.
More reporters, more cameras, more transparency, more points of view than any other cable news network on election night. That's what it means to be news for all America. This election, trust NewsNation.
Believe me, when it comes to investing, you'll love Carl's Way. Take a left here, please.
But there's a...
Carl's Way is the best way.
Is it? At Schwab, how I choose to invest is up to me.
Exactly. I can invest and trade on my own.
Yes, and I let them manage some investments for me, too.
Let's move on, shall we?
No can do.
I'll get out there.
Where are you going?
Schwab.
Schwab.
Schwab, a modern approach to wealth management.
Hey, take a moment. Do you know who we are? We're the kids you champion every day. We're the ones who dream big, and because of you, our dreams become a reality. These are more than just words. This is what we're all about. This is Shriners Children's. Because for more than 100 years now, Shriners Children's has been on a mission to provide the most amazing care anywhere. And guess what? It's working. With more than 100 access points to care, Shriners Children's is able to reach more kids in even more places all around the world. When we need them the most, their amazing doctors and nurses are treating kids in the US, Canada, Mexico, and Latin America. And they're helping kids from more than 100 other countries, too. And the best part? They're doing all of this regardless of a family's ability to pay. And someone else helps make it all possible. You. Do. You. Do. You too! It's true. You're pretty awesome.
When you go online to loveshriners.org or call this special number with your monthly gift, you'll make a difference too.
Your donation, large or small, helps Shriners Children's do new research, create life-changing treatments, and provide burn care to kids around the world. Every day, people like you give families like ours the hope and healing we need. And when you give your monthly gift of $19 or more, we'll send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket. It's a warm reminder of the incredible things you're making possible and that you're a part of something special. Because no matter where we come from or what language we speak, every kid deserves the most amazing care anywhere. So how can you help? Take a moment. Call or go online to loveshriners.org right away and start filling our world with more hope, healing, and possibilities.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
This is the story of the one who believes being prepared is not just a way of life, it's how he helps everyone stay safe. He sweats the small stuff before it becomes big stuff. For the one, being an unsung hero in a building full of everyday heroes is just how he likes it. The industrial-grade products you need delivered fast. Call, click Grainger.com or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We all know that we'll eventually need a will. Eventually. How about right now? Trust and Will has taken the process of creating your will and made it easy, like while you're lounging on the couch, easy. Trust and Will is designed by attorneys, but customized by you, one question at a time. All documents are state-specific, legally valid, and start at just $199. That's not a typo. Find the plan that's right for you at trustandwill.com.
I will never apologize for defending America. I will protect our workers. I will protect our jobs. I will protect our borders. I will protect our family. I will protect our women. I'm going to protect our women.
This whole idea that we be pointing fingers at each other, the idea that we have nothing in common when we know the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. So let's be intentional about building community and building coalitions. There is power in that, and it will strengthen our country.
Vice President Kamala Harris taking her swing state blitz to North Carolina this afternoon as the race in the crucial battleground remains neck and neck. Harris visiting on the final day of early voting, where despite a devastating hurricane and a political scandal, more than half of the state's registered voters have already cast their ballots. Democrats have only won North Carolina's 16 electoral votes twice in the past half-century. And right now, Trump is holding a slight lead. NewsNation's Kelly Meyer is live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Kelly, how is Ms. Harris expected to appeal directly to North Carolinians? And question, who needs it more, Harris or Trump?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nick. And we see Vice President Harris really trying to bring it all here to North Carolina. And this is a state that she's visited over and over again in the last several weeks and really months. She continues to come here and spend valuable time in real estate in North Carolina. It's a state that she wants to see go for Democrats and see that 2008 energy that we keep hearing about when we're covering her in North Carolina. That's when former President Barack Obama flipped the state back in 2008 when he won as the Democratic nominee. So her message today is to those undecided voters. You mentioned there that those early voting numbers are very high. They now outpace 2020 numbers. We just talked to someone who brought us here in the Uber. He just early voted this morning. He said he spent an hour in line and he voted for Vice President Kamala Harris. He says because he feels the other guy is crazy. He didn't think that he appealed to him. So her message is really to those voters here in Charlotte today, as well as the rest of the state, trying to get them to go out to the polls. She also has this new ad kind of highlighting that she is a president for all Americans. It's a message we've been seeing her kind of increase in the last several days, really since that Washington, D.C. speech, trying to show that she'll be a president for all Americans. In Atlanta, she had a stop earlier today. You see, she's trying to recreate President Biden's win there. He won in 2020 for the first time that a Democrat won in that state in 30 years. And then she's heading over here to North Carolina. I wanted to play a little bit about what she had to say with her case against former President Trump. Take a listen.
Let us be intentional in knowing that these last years of this Trump era, yes, they have been exhausting, but they have not been in the best interest of the strength of our nation.
So let's look at that poll for the polling numbers for Georgia. You see Harris a little bit behind, 47.4, 49.3. And then let's take a look at North Carolina. You have Harris at 47.7 and 49.1 in the North Carolina here in state of North Carolina. So she's still trailing behind. So she's really trying to bring her A game here today as Vice President or former President Trump is here at the same time as Vice President Harris. And she has surrogates hitting the road across the country for her, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, and here she'll bring out performers like John Bon Jovi to help her motivate voters to get out to the polls if they haven't already, Nick.
NewsNation's Kelly Meyer, thank you so much. Let's bring in Republican strategist Aaron Evans and Democratic strategist Sean Pittman. Both of you, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Great to be here.
Pleasure being on. Thank you.
Aaron, let's start right in there. We've heard Mr. Trump ramping up his rhetoric in his closing arguments, taking aim at migrants and the ongoing border crisis. Let's take a listen. Aaron.
And I am hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or law enforcement officer. Have no choice. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States of America. Sanctuary for criminals.
Aaron, simple question. Is that too extreme?
I think, one, banning sanctuary cities is just saying that we're going to stand by the laws at hand. And, I think it's kind of a preposterous thing that we even have cities who can say we're going to ignore federal law as stands anyway. And I think when we're talking about anyone, frankly, coming in and killing law enforcement or killing Americans, look, at the end of the day, we need to be tough on crime. And I think that, one of the fundamental duties of the United States government is to protect our people. And under the last 3.5 years, we've seen that failed internationally. We're, when we look at the brink of World War III that we're basically on the brink of because of Biden and Harris, and then also seeing nearly 9 million illegal immigrants coming across the southern border unchecked. And so, I think that, and when we look at polls, there's a reason that, Trump is surging right now in the polls on this issue because the Americans actually feel like Harris has not done enough on these issues as the borders are.
And Sean, that's part of the problem because many do feel as though the enforcement of federal law should not even be something that's questioned in regards to sanctuary cities. Meanwhile, Harris is taking time to attack Trump during her rally in Atlanta. Let's take a listen and chat on the other side, Sean.
And look, we know who Donald Trump is. And because we know this is not someone who is thinking about how your life better. This is someone who is increasingly unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and the man is out for unchecked power.
Unchecked power, grievance, revenge, a to-do list, an enemies list. These are things we're hearing over and over in the last few days, Sean. With just days to go, is this messaging working?
You know, I think it's important that it's said because the former president is saying it himself. But I think that it's also very, very important for this Harris candidacy that she leans into exactly what her closing argument television ad is doing, right? And that is trying to talk to people about unity and talk to people about who we think we are as Americans and talk to them about the issues that matter most to them. And that's how they get by day to day. I do think she needs to spend less time talking about Donald Trump. But I tell you, I got to think it's really, really hard running against somebody that all they have to talk about are things that ignite their base, as opposed to talking to all Americans about the things that they talk about and that they wander over at their kitchen table. So I get it. I understand, you know, yeah, throw it in here and there, just the reminder, but the majority of what she needs to be talking about needs to be consistent with her latest commercial about unity and who we are as Americans.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both. Aaron, I do want to ask you before I let you go, where will you be on Tuesday night? And Sean, same question.
I'll be in New York watching the results come in, and excited to see how it pans across the country.
All right, regardless of how it goes, don't hide from us on Wednesday or Thursday when we want to talk to you. Same question to you, Sean.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I'm going to be in Florida because we've got important issues going on even beyond the presidency in Florida. And by the way, we've got to do better in Florida as it relates to the national circuit, and we will. But I'll be in Florida and trying to sell more books talking about why people don't vote and why they should.
Gentlemen, thank you both for giving me part of your Saturday. Aaron Evans and Sean Pittman, both, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
The Middle East standing on the brink of open war. Iran's supreme leader threatening Israel and the U.S. with attack once more following Israeli airstrikes in October. More U.S. forces now moving into the region. Could we see an attack before Election Day? We'll have the answer when we return.
My moderate to severe Crohn's symptoms kept me out of the picture. Now I have Skyrizi.
I've got places to go and I'm feeling free. Controlling my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
And now I'm back in the picture. Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi helped visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And with Skyrizi, many were in remission at 12 weeks, at 1 year, and even at 2 years.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Ask your gastroenterologist how to take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
I wish my TV provider let me choose what I pay for. And pause my subscription when I want and have hundreds of free channels.
Sling lets you do that.
Choose and customize your channel lineup or watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Don't mind me. I'm just the flu. I'm quite harmless, really. And when people ask, but aren't you linked to dangerous flu complications like pneumonia, heart attack, and hospitalizations? I just say, but I'm just the flu.
It's him.
Who? I'm just the flu.
Demand more from your flu shot. Sanofi higher dose flu vaccines are proven to provide better flu protection than standard dose flu shots in older adults. They've even been shown to better protect against flu-related complications.
Don't get Fluzone high dose if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its components, including egg products, or after previous dose of flu vaccine. Don't get Flublock if you've had a severe allergic reaction to its components. Tell your healthcare professional if you've had severe muscle weakness after a flu shot. Fainting has occurred. People with weakened immune systems may have a lower vaccine response.
All flu shots are not the same. Ask for a Sanofi higher dose flu vaccine. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about Fluzone High Dose or Flublok.
Homes.com is a new, elevated home shopping experience.
It's the only site that always connects you to the listing agent.
Feels like a work of art.
What about the app?
Uh-oh!
Wow, went all in on gold. Ding dong!
Homes.com. We've done your homework.
The Cabinets to Go Buy More, Save More sale is going on now.
Hurry in for your free 3D design. Save up to 40%. And start enjoying your new dream kitchen for just $139 per month.
Get more wow for less at Cabinets to Go.
It's hard to say who'll be more excited on the day after Christmas. The guy who got a brand new truck from mom and dad, or the guy who got all the WeatherTech protection for his truck, like laser measured floor liners, the underseat storage system, no drill mud flaps, impact liner with shock absorbing rings, and top it off with the alloy cover. Find these American-made gifts or get a gift card instantly at WT.com.
Okay, everyone, our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
Pets are cute. Until they're not. Forgive your best friend. It's not clean until it's Stanley Steamer Clean.
46 minutes after the hour. Tensions flaring once more in the Middle East. Iran's supreme leader now threatening Israel and the United States again today, saying they will face a, quote, crushing response to an earlier attack on Iran and its proxies. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin announcing that he will be sending more U.S. forces to the region, including an aircraft carrier and long-range bombers, hoping that a show of force can curb an attack from Iran. And the situation on the ground growing dire, with Israeli airstrikes in Gaza Friday killing 64 people, with another 52 dead following an attack near Beirut, according to Palestinian health authorities. And in Israel, 11 were injured following a rocket attack launched from Lebanon. The attacks doing U.S. envoys in the Middle East no favors as they try to seal a peace deal before the election. Key diplomats are on the ground in Israel this week, pushing Biden's peace plan despite Hamas rejecting a proposed truce. Joining me now is Middle East expert and senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Dr. Iran's supreme leader is threatening a response to Israel's October airstrikes. These are threats that the U.S. government seems to be taking seriously. Do you think we could see a response from Iran before the election?
It's very possible. And I would take the Iranian regime at its word. We know that in recent days and recent weeks, some of the largest cargo planes in the world have landed from Russia into Iran. We know that Iran is also managing its assets and making a calculation. The calculation it's making is how hard can it strike Israel and have prepared what remains of its Hezbollah assets in Lebanon to retaliate if Israel retaliates back. This situation has already escalated so much that while I certainly agree with U.S. forces being moved and positioned into the region, as the Department of Defense describes it, posturing, we're going to need really an emphatic response. And I think we have to be prepared. The fact that it may occur just as we're on the threshold of the most watched election on the planet adds another degree of tension.
Dr. Ahmed, I personally believe a lot of the reasons many Americans are not focused on or paying attention to what's happening in the Middle East is because we don't have conscription by law. So most are not actively engaged and they don't have to serve, so they're not as tied to it as they should be. This is a major concern. The U.S. is moving more forces into the Middle East, shoring up the already massive force in the region. Do officials expect that war to widen and there possibly be more American troops involved in what's happening in the Middle East?
Nick, I would say there's a high likelihood. We know that American troops are already being moved. We know, for instance, with the defense assets, the THAAD system that was sent to Israel recently. American troops are over there. We also know that we've sort of sacrificed the defense of the Red Sea, and we're not really in control of the Red Sea, which is now at the mercy of the Houthi militias. We're not able to respond to how they have subjugated the Red Sea, attacking various ships that are carrying fuel, diverting the world's fuel around Africa. We're not able to defend that as well as we did against piracy. So we have transmitted a tremendous message of weakness that is well discussed and even expressed in open meetings in front of American diplomats. Hezbollah, even though it's been seriously degraded by Israel, is still not out of all of its assets, including very deeply placed strategic Imad bunkers, which are deep under the ground and contain the capability to launch tens or hundreds of ballistic missiles on Israel. And remember, this is all part of a coordinated war by Iran of design on Israel, not only to look towards the eradication of Israel, which is their declared intent, but also to entangle the United States into this very volatile geopolitical region. One thing I want to say is we abhor all the civilian loss of life, and there's tremendous criticism about American arms that might be implicated in the loss of civilian life. But the problem with this conflict that Israel is fighting in both theaters, Lebanon and also in Gaza, particularly in Gaza, is the Palestinian civilians are deeply mired in this conflict. They're victims, but they're also collaborators. Even now, this terrible event where a residential building was struck, my guess is it's probably there was a Hamas-affiliated spotter on the roof reporting locations of Israeli forces.
And
that
Dr.
then
Ahmed,
goes to a network of snipers who then target Israeli military with tremendously powerful Iranian weapons, and they exploit the civilian deaths in order to put pressure on the U.S. and Israel not to respond.
Senior Fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, Dr. Kanta Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us on a very complicated issue. We'll be right back after the break.
Pleasure.
Election night. NewsNation is offering something completely different from all the rest. Respect for all Americans. Factual, fair, independent election coverage you can trust. Tuesday, 6/5 Central on NewsNation.
I've always been an active person. Biking, running, but yoga, it's really special to me. It's definitely a big part of who I am, and I love the way it makes me feel. But there was a time not long ago when I felt I had to accept the idea of hanging up this old yoga mat. You see, I have symptomatic obstructive HCM, which left me so short of breath, I just couldn't get out here, making me feel like a bystander in my own life. So I talked to my cardiologist, and he told me about Camzyos. He said Camzyos works by targeting what's causing my obstructive HCM. So he prescribed it, and I'm so thankful he did.
Camzyos is used to treat adults with symptomatic obstructive HCM. Camzyos may improve your symptoms and your ability to be active. Camzyos may cause serious side effects, including heart failure that can lead to death, a risk that's increased if you develop a serious infection or irregular heartbeat or when taking certain other medicines. So do not stop, start, or change medicines or the dose without telling your healthcare provider. You must have echocardiograms before and during treatment. Seek help if you experience new or worsening symptoms of heart failure. Because of this risk, Camzyos is only available through a restricted program. Before taking Camzyos, tell your doctor about all of your medical conditions, including current or planned pregnancy.
With Camzyos reducing my symptoms, I've gone from sitting on the sidelines to being back in the game.
My name is Stephanie, and this is my Camzyos moment.
Call your cardiologist today and see if a Camzyos moment may be in your future, too.
What should we do?
I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, we can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Looking for a way to stretch the dollar? With Insurify, you can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls and no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
Take a breath of fresh air with a Stanley Steamer air duct cleaning. We clean over 10 million feet of air ducts each year with our specialized trucks, built by us, removing the contaminants from your home. Your air ducts aren't clean until they're Stanley Steamer clean.
It's your home cleaner.
At Bombas, we make the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. So comfortable, you'll wish you had more. Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
No more gross cough syrup.
I want you to feel better.
I want extra TV time or I'll walk.
How about this?
Introducing the only kid's soft chew for medicated cough relief. New Mucinex Children's Mighty Chews are mighty clever.
When our country needed you, you answered the call. You took the oath. You served. And you sacrificed to defend our great country. Visiting Angels knows veterans. You are the heroes among us. And we are honored to serve you.
Visiting Angels, America's choice in home care.
This is the story of the one who doesn't just see a broken dock. He sees lost revenue, a late night, and work stalled to a halt. Thankfully, he has the experience to handle whatever comes his way and has Grainger on his side, offering access to technical product specialists and the scale to deliver fast, so he can keep his business in gear and always moving forward. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
That's all for NewsNation Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. 1 Central. Adrian Bakert is up next with NewsNation Now.